Hello, architectural design and 3D modeling students. We are jumping right into Rhino 6, and I'm going to show you just a few basics here. Just excuse the fact that this file is untitled and unsaved. One of the first things that you'll want to do when you create your first Rhino project is to create a folder, either on your drive or somewhere on your computer. I would prefer that you put it on your drive. That way you'll have access to the files both at home on your computer and in the lab here at school. So if you use that file stream, Google File Stream, you'll be able to access your files from both locations. If you're wondering what that little noise in the background is, it is the 3D printer working on one of my architectural builds that I created in Rhino 3D, Rhino 6. Okay, so let's get started. Let's take a look at what we've got here. We've got this opening interface, and boy, are there lots of tabs here of all sorts of things we can do. And we've got our toolbar here that looks very much like each one of these has like little sub menus coming off of it. Man, all the buttons have sub buttons and sub features. Oh my gosh, this is a lot of stuff, right? Can be a little overwhelming. And interestingly enough, you can actually pull these out like I'm showing you here. You can just kind of like pull this out, and if you're going to use a particular toolbar, you can just unanchor them, and then when you're done with them, you can X them out. You've also got all these little tabs over here with all sorts of different things that you can do, and the main one here being the layers that we're going to be using. But you got your informational port here, but this is our layers. This is what we're going to be using mostly. And then here we've got 4 different viewports. We call these the viewports. And we've got the perspective one, which we're going to be sort of using primarily, right? I can right click and drag around to move through here. I can also use my my little pan hand here to move that around, right? If I want to get different perspectives on the perspective view. And then here's going to be the top view, here's the front view, and here's the right view. One thing to be aware of is that in Rhino, the z-axis is the vertical axis. This is your x here, this is your y here, and then the z-axis is vertical. So that's kind of counterintuitive because we're used to thinking of the y-axis as the one that goes up, but our y-axis is here. And you can use this little gizmo here to kind of help you see where your axes are. And then here in the other perspectives you can see it, or the other viewports you can see it. All right, and here's my little viewport. Active viewport is the one that I click on, and then if I want, I can double click on one, and it gives me that as the primary viewport. And then if I want to go back, I could go viewport layout, and then 4 viewports, just like that. Okay, so let's throw an object out here. This is just our box tool here. That's a very simple tool. And I'm just going to drag a box. I click and drag that and release, and then click again, and then it allows me to make my z-axis sort of how high I want this box to be. And very simply, we've created what's probably not an exact cube, but it's a nice rectangular prism. And you see it's in wireframe mode. So if I drop this little arrow down here, yep, there it is, wireframe. If I want to see it as a shaded object, I could go shaded. If I want to see it as rendered, oh, look at that, isn't that lovely? Or I could go artistic. Oh, there's no change. Oh, wait, it's working on it. Oh, shoot, I changed it too fast. Artistic. Oh, look at that. It's lovely, like a sketch pad. We'll mostly be working in shaded and wireframe, views. Okay, so there you have it. And if you look at the other perspectives, let's go ahead and change those also to shaded. Not that it really makes too much of a difference, but we'll put those as shaded. And we're looking at the right view, the front view, and then the top view here. These can be useful as you'll see in a few moments. Okay, before we start working with this object or doing anything or showing you anything specific, let's jump into our properties panel and talk a little bit about that. File, properties. A very useful little box here. The properties panel, first of all, tells us what units we're using, and you can see that this file is now set up with millimeters. I always like to go with one extra zero here on the tolerance. And we've got millimeters here, but you could do centimeters, you could do meters if you're larger objects and so forth. I would probably not go any higher than centimeters, even if I was using a meters, the metric system, right? But I also have kilometers for really large projects. And then I have feet and inches. So we also can do empirical measurements in here, which we'll probably do once we start working on some of our projects later on. So I can set my units in here, and look at this. Wait, what is this? Light years? Parsecs? Wait, okay. So apparently we can also design wormholes and space travel and what have you. So Rhino 6 is looking towards the future. All right, so we got our units. All right, another really cool thing that will not be useful to you right away, but as you get more experience with Rhino 6, and once you start becoming an actual architect later on in life, and you're using this program for professional work, this aliases is going to be very useful to you. You can see these are kind of like shortcut keys, right? If I type in C, then the select crossing command is going to pop up for me. Or if I just type in move or M, then the move tool is going to, the move command is going to show up here. And so it's kind of like a way of shortcutting certain features that I'm going to use a lot. I don't personally use any aliases right now because I'm still sort of an inexperienced user with Rhino 6 as well, even though I spent the summer toying around with it. But if I were to make a nice list of aliases once I got experienced with this, then I can actually export this and bring my alias list with me to another computer or another workstation, and then I could just import it, and it basically makes it a TXT file, and I could bring my shortcuts with me that way, so that because these are going to be specific to the machine that you've installed Rhino on. So that's kind of cool. Aliases are really kind of neat. What about modeling aids? Let's take a look at modeling aids. And you've got your grid snap here. That means that the objects are going to snap, or your mouse is going to snap to the grid here that you've got laid out. I like to just go ahead and check all of these. And then also for the mouse, right now, the middle mouse button is really nothing's happening. So I'm going to run a macro for the middle mouse button, and I'm going to put in ZS, which is the alias for zoom selected. So that allows me like to just select something and then hit my center mouse and zoom in on that, so I can kind of work on whatever I have selected. That's great for larger projects when you want to like move around to a thing that's on the opposite side, and I don't want to just try to use the hand tool to get me there. I can use the middle mouse button there with the ZS, zoom selected. All right, anything else in here? Let me think. I think that's probably it for now. So we say okay, and now let's say if let's say I go out here, and then I select that, and then I click the middle button, the middle mouse button, and look, see how that kind of brought me in? Just clicking that middle mouse button, the zoom selected, it zooms me right in on my object. Which brings me to the gumball. And you can see it's highlighted down here for me on the bottom set of toolbars, the gumball. The gumball is really kind of cool. Let's make a separate video on the gumball, okay? Thanks for paying attention, and I hope you liked the video, and have fun designing in Rhino 6.